SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, were adopted at a UN summit in 2015. Under the theme of leaving no one behind, they comprise 17 categories of global issues, such as human rights, the environment, and poverty, to be tackled by 2030. But already 7 years have passed since the world has started working towards the goal of solving various universal problems.
The world is likely to become further divided, with the consequences far more dire than we have seen. I feel we're standing at an inflection point.
In addition to the Russian invasion of Ukraine that has resulted in the loss of lives and infringement of human rights, military conflicts are continuing around the world, with the ensuing humanitarian crisis forcing more than 100 million people to flee their homes as refugees. Natural disasters and climate change have also led to a serious shortage of food and water. A growing number of people have had to relocate their homes because of the effects of climate change, and every year more than 20 million people live under severe circumstances. The world faces a storm of headwinds, holding it back from achieving SDGs. And in Tokyo this May, representatives of various industries gathered at the Nikkei SDGs Festival to talk about their efforts to achieve sustainable development goals. Over 6 days, more than 100 people took the stage to present their vision.
I think the question is, how much of a sense of crisis do we have about the urgency of achieving SDGs?
We can energize society. This is very significant.
Just 8 years remain until the goal line of 2030. We speak with key people in various fields to find out what path we need to take to realize a world and a future in which no one is left behind. As more and more companies engage in SDGs in recent years, entrepreneurial ventures are said to have the biggest potential in sparking innovation in various fields.
For example, young Gen Z and millennial business executives who launch entrepreneurial ventures have had the experience of learning about SDGs in their school education. They are very interested in issues in the societies that they live in, or global poverty. Their ability to come up with new ideas and implement new schemes, to inject a new energy, will hold the key to our future.
Hi, I'm Toyonaga of Cultivera.
Cultivera is engaged in a business to solve one of the biggest issues faced by the world, the water shortage. Earth has been called the planet of water. But most water is seawater, and fresh water from sources such as underground and rivers make up just 0.8% of the total. Because of the population growth and rising temperatures in the future, 5 billion people, more than half the global population, are expected to face a shortage of water by 2050. Currently, 70% of water supplies around the world are used for agriculture. Working to solve this problem is Okinawa-based Cultivera. They've developed a technology to grow crops with just 1/10 of the water typically needed. Moist culture is a proprietary technology to lay special fibers across soil holding vegetable roots. The water needed by crops is converted to moisture by the fibers, spurring capillary action of the roots. They say root capillaries are activated with just 1/10 of the water typically needed by absorbing nutrients from the moisture, making it possible to grow crops. Takigun, Mie Prefecture. We visited Pomona Farm, where Shohei Toyonaga is applying the moist culture technology.
Hello.
There's a reason why Mr. Toyonaga chose Mie Prefecture to open his farm.
The line around here is about 34 degrees north latitude. Climate change is also said to start at 34 degrees north latitude and moves northward.
From mountain fires to droughts, natural disasters are also intensifying around the world, primarily along the 34th parallel north. Mie Prefecture lies on that same line. So how effective can moist culture be? To test that out, he decided to open the farm in this place. To date, he's grown a variety of produce such as tomatoes, herbs, lettuce, strawberries, and even melons. All of them were cultivated with just a tenth of the water typically needed. What's more, Mr. Toyonaga says using moist culture will allow farmers to grow crops in any location without producing agricultural wastewater that pollutes rivers.
In an extreme sense, the question is, what do we need to do to achieve the same results on the other side of the earth? Our technology allows you to use simple materials to easily farm, and the key for us is making this into a global standard and further expanding its use.
A proprietary technology that realizes farming with only a tenth of the water typically needed. Utilizing this technology, Mr. Toyonaga is in the midst of taking on a new challenge in Shima City, Mie Prefecture. At this experimental facility, he's growing crops such as tomatoes, corn, and chili peppers. All of the produce at this facility is being grown using seawater drawn up from the coast nearby. More than 90% of water on this earth is seawater. But because seawater contains salt, it can cause crops to wither and has long been seen as unsuitable for farming.
You see many surfers out there, but looking across, there's limitless water. So if we can use this for farming, then I think it could become very interesting.
In his research, alkaline seawater and acidic rainwater are mixed and neutralized to grow a range of roots according to crop variety. As the direct source of nutrition is mineral-rich seawater, the harvested crops have a high nutritional value and are even used by well-known restaurants. Applying this technology, Cultivera has partnered with a startup building structures in the sea and plans to launch practical trials in Shizuoka Prefecture next year.
Japan is an island nation, and I'm hoping that this can develop into a technology precisely because of our geography. With leafy vegetables, there's absolutely no need for fertilizer, and they can be grown with just the energy of seawater, which means fertilizer will no longer be necessary. I think it's very interesting.
The construction industry has been abuzz in recent years about how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. At the Nikkei SDGs Festival, Shigeru Ban, who was long engaged in a different field of humanitarian assistance, also took the stage. In 1994, civil war in the African nation of Rwanda forced nearly 2 million people to flee as refugees. Seeing the reports, Mr. Ban started developing temporary housing for refugee camps. Later, he began building shelters for victims of the Great Hanshin Awaji earthquake and more recently for Ukrainian refugees. He's visited numerous hotspots in Japan and around the world to provide assistance as an architect.
For example, there's an earthquake. People don't die as a direct result. Why do people get hurt or die? That's because structures collapse, killing people. In other words, as architects, it's our responsibility. Before a city is reconstructed, people are put in an extremely poor environment, such as evacuation centers and temporary housing. I felt that improving such living environments is also the job of architects like me, and that's why I started doing volunteer work.
To learn more about Mr. Ban's ideas in providing assistance to disaster-hit areas, we visited his architectural office. As a material for temporary housing, Mr. Ban has adopted tubes made from recycled paper. They're used to wrap materials such as toilet paper and film. When he started out as an architect, he says he used such tubes instead of high-priced wood to build temporary exhibition spaces.
It was still the mid-1980s, the bubble economy period. So it was a time when no one in society talked about recycling or ecology. Wood was expensive, and it was a waste to use that for temporary exhibition spaces that would be torn down. I wanted something much cheaper that could be used as a substitute. I found tubes to be very strong and was convinced it could be used precisely, effectively, and inexpensively for architectural structures.
1995, the Great Hanshin Awaji earthquake. Refugees from Vietnam who Japan had been accepting into the country were also affected. So Mr. Bond built a church for them in Kobe using paper tubes. The paper church was used for the next 10 years and then relocated to the central part of Taiwan that suffered the biggest damage from an earthquake in 1999. Even 27 years after it was first built, it continues to be cherished by the people of Taiwan as a church and community center.
It has nothing to do with earthquake resistance and durability. I'm sure people in cities have seen big structures all of a sudden disappear and replaced by something newer. Ultimately, even money-making commercial buildings built with concrete are temporary. Another developer will come along, buy the property, demolish it, and build a new one. It's a repetition. Even if you build a structure with something as simple as paper, as long as it's loved by the people, it can become permanent.
Mr. Bond is now working to develop a new construction material to support refugees in Ukraine, which he has visited twice in the past. It involves a technology to coat styrene foam used as a packaging material with glass fiber to enhance its waterproofing and strength. He says that it would be possible to assemble a home about 30 square meters in size, excluding waterworks, in just a day.
The factory won't need machines because styrene foam doesn't require anything special. We've been able to verify that and have factories in Poland and Ukraine. So it can be made with locally sourced materials and without any special equipment. It's very light and anyone can convert it into panels and carry out assembly. I believe it's essential to not only introduce such technologies, but also create new employment.
This September, Mr. Bond made another visit to a refugee center in Ukraine and is working with local architects to construct new housing for the rebuilding of cities. Sports has also been included in a UN resolution as vital in realizing sustainable development. At the Nikkei SDGs Festival, representatives of the Rugby and Basketball Associations spoke about how they are starting to work together with local governments and companies to solve social issues. The relationship between sports and SDGs is said to have become widely recognized since the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics held last year.
For example, food and beverage containers were reused, and the materials used by athletes, such as furniture at the athletes' village, were recycled. Various environmentally friendly measures were taken, and I believe it was an Olympics that drew widespread interest in what the sports world can do to address this issue.
Marunouchi, Tokyo. One group of people has started jogging in the early morning on weekends and holidays. With gloved hands, they appear to be putting something into bags. This is actually a fitness activity called plogging, in which participants pick up trash to beautify the streets while jogging. Originating in Sweden as a way to exercise and be environmentally friendly, it's also generating interest in Japan.
It's great to hunt for trash with everyone. It's not fun doing it alone. At first glance, it looks clean, but there's actually a lot of trash in the grass.
The area around Tokyo Station appears clean on the surface, but they collected 8 kilograms of trash in 2 hours.
Cigarette butts and other trash are hidden. I had fun looking for those.
This plogging activity is being carried out in the Daimaru area of Otemachi, Marunouchi, and Yurakucho as part of an SDGs event called Act 5.
People can donate to organizations supporting the UN theme of refugees, as well as those cleaning ocean debris drifting to the coast of Miyako Island. We want to cheer them on from the Daimaru-yu area. People working in and outside the Daimaru-yu area can come together and create all kinds of communities. We want to make this a platform to create a society that gives birth to new innovations.
The fifth SDG is the achievement of gender equality. A global ranking of gender equality issued by the World Economic Forum shows that Japan stands at 116th out of 146 countries, the lowest among G7 industrialized nations. Topping the list is Iceland. Ms. Baba says Japan has much to learn from the country.
From quite a long time ago, Iceland has implemented a system to verify that the salaries between men and women at companies are at an equal level. It's one of the leading countries in making efforts to encourage companies to ensure gender equality.
At the SDGs Festival, Icelandic Prime Minister Katrín Jakobsdóttir spoke about the many issues that remain toward gender equality despite her country's ranking.
We see men disproportionately in charge in areas of finance and investments. We see far too few women in the top positions of our largest companies. And gender-based violence is still a huge problem in our society. And because of this, gender equality should always be on our agenda. Gender equality should be considered in all of our policy making. That way, our societies will one day become fully equal to every person's benefit.
Kunio Ito, the director of Hitotsubashi CFO Education and Research Center, also spoke at the SDGs Festival. Mr. Ito says a key theme of SDGs from now on will be human rights, including gender equality.
Japanese companies haven't paid much attention to human rights until now. But as supply chains increasingly become global, there are various circumstances in countries on the other side. That means, in terms of supply chains, it's essential to be aware of whether the countries of your main business partners are under a despotic leader, for instance. A leader like that could start military conflicts, resulting in human rights problems that we're seeing now. How to collect information on human rights conditions is a growing issue.
The world must address 17 issues such as human rights, the environment, and education by 2030. Mr. Ito says companies will need to become more involved in solving these issues.
Management is becoming increasingly difficult. I often say it's like mixed martial arts. We face problems in going carbon-free, human resources, and digital transformation. You can't just improve individual techniques. You need to combine them and naturally win in the game of competition. To do that, you have to be a mixed martial artist and figure out how to combine various techniques and put them into practice in management. That's what companies truly need to do now.